give us the desires to will and to do for your good pleasure, Lord. So these are the desires that you've laid upon my heart, Lord. You've called us to this church to lead your people forward, Lord. But God, we continually pray and seek your face to say, Lord, here is Calvary Chapel, Santa Clarita, and your people, Lord. Do that which you desire, Lord, that which will glorify and honor your name. Lord, we thank you for this time. In Jesus' name, amen.
All right. So what's on the docket for 2019? Well, let's see. As you guys know, I'm going to lay this out, what this looks like. There's details, there's gaps. None of this is going to be perfect, and I will tell you, what we lay out this afternoon, can it change? Absolutely. I'm laying it out in faith, believing that this is why the Lord has brought me here, and this is his plan. But ultimately, it's not what I desire. So if we're heading in a direction the Lord is not in it, we do not want to continue down that road. So I'm casting vision for this year, but please plan on being flexible in that, right? Pastor Chuck always said, blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be broken. And so in that, I pray as you hear this, that you're not shaken in any way, because many of you have been faithful here for so many years, and church has operated in a certain way for so many years. And it's not me pushing my ideas upon you, those of you that have been faithful here. It's me saying, hey, this is where God has me. How do we go about this together? Because I cannot do this on my own. I literally can't. Just like all of you, I have a full-time job. I have children that I'm raising, and I'm here at this church. You know, we drive all the way from North Hollywood here, you know, whatever times of the week that are here. And so we're right here with you. There's not anything that we don't understand what it's like to be busy or to sacrifice and to give up things. And so I would just ask, as you hear this, would you pray and receive that and be open for some change and to collaborate and to work together that we might fulfill that which the Lord wants to do with us. So CCSC 2019. Well, what is the mission? We always start with the mission. That's clear. I don't even have to set that out, right? Matthew 28 tells us, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you, and surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. So our call is here as Calvary Chapel, Santa Clarita, is to make disciples of you. My job is to work myself out of a job, because the Lord knows my days here on this earth, right? Let's say in 5 years, 7 years, the Lord decides to take me out in whatever way he has it. My prayer is that this church would continue to thrive, because the depth of what he's doing in the members of this church, that it would be an easy transition for people to continue to step up and to fill those different areas and voids. Well, what is the vision behind that? Well, our desire for each and every member, how can we go and send people out? Well, that first has to start here, right? As you therefore have received Christ Jesus, the Lord, so walk in him, rooted and built up and established in the faith. Why do we teach verse by verse, book by book, chapter by chapter? We want you to be rooted and grounded and established, that you might become mature. And I want to deputize you tonight that there is not only one minister here in this church. There are many. And there's a variety of gifts. The Word of God is very clear, right? There's a variety of gifts. Some are pastor teachers, some are evangelists, so on and so forth, right? And each of you are gifted. And so our job is to say, Lord, what is my place? How do I fit into this? What is my gifting? And that we all use our gifts to further the kingdom of God. But that all starts with us, each individually having our personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and growing and being rooted and grounded in him, that we might have to give that which we freely receive from him. Well, how do we go about doing this, about going out, making disciples? How are we rooted and grounded? Well, that's real simple, right? It's Acts 2:42, right? We have the apostles' teaching, fellowship, breaking of bread, and prayer. And so if you were here last night, I might have thrown you for a curve, because the Valentine's dinner, to what people were telling me, threw them for a curve. They're like, wow, that was something completely different than I thought. And my thing falls into fellowship, breaking of the bread, right? I can tell you this, I don't do this for money. What drives me is the relationships. What's driven me for the past 15 years is the relationships with those teenagers. So to be able to have fun with you, to laugh with you, to call you my friends, and to care for you and you care for me, that is what is the fuel in my tank. And that is what drives me forward, because the work of the ministry is difficult. And it's hard at times, and it weighs heavy, and you get tired. And so can I tell you, last night was a taste of what, now I say fellowship, that's what it means, that we learn to get to know each other, that we laugh together, that we're involved in each other's lives. We just talked about it today, right? That we would exhort one another while it's called today, that we can all enter that rest. And prayer, if you haven't noticed, is a big part. If you serve here on a Sunday morning, every Sunday morning, 8 a.m., right? We're sitting there praying in the service. At the end of the service, what are we doing? We're praying and closing out that service. What are we doing on a Wednesday night? We have worship, a time in the Word, and then we spend a good close to half an hour praying together. This will be the core of this church, because this is how we seek the will of God in our lives for our church, and as we lift each other up before the throne of grace and those that we love. So prayer is another core theme. This is how we're rooted and grounded in those things. This is how we go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations. Well, what are some upcoming events? And when I say events, I literally mean events. I'm not talking another church service. Last night, with the Valentine's Day dinner, it was an event. We had a photo booth, right? We had the tables going on. We had food. We had we played the not so newlywed game. And Pam and Jerry almost were the comeback kids and won last night. But, those are events, and what is the purpose? And this is why I'm still figuring this out. You're adults. I can't treat you the way I treated my youth group. Because I'd slug them in the arm, tackle them, throw them on the floor, and they loved it, right? That was fun. Or I'd throw a cup of water in their face, and then we'd chase each other around. Cookie's like, don't do that to me. So I'm learning to say, okay, what are those principles that I've learned throughout my time in ministry, and how do I love you as adults and be able to show you that respect? Because there are those of you that are much older than me, and I honor that, and I respect that. And when I think, Lord, why have you placed me here at Calvary Chapel, Santa Clarita? And why do we have so many blessed older saints in there? And I think about that and I say, because you know why? It's beautiful. Because they have life experience that I can't give. They have love for younger people. If the Lord decides to bring younger people into this congregation, to be able to love and encourage those that I can't. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I've learned that early, because youth are honest, right? Youth, you try to be their friend, they're like, what do you want? Get away from me, right? They just tell you straight out. So I learned early on in ministry that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, and so therefore I can't be the be-all, end-all. And so when we talk about events, the purpose of events is, number one, evangelism. And you're like, how is that evangelism, right? You've heard the saying, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. There's people that you have in your life that be like, you go, oh, you want to come to church with me? And they're like, not. I won't ever do that. But you're like, hey, my church is having a Valentine's dinner. You want to come with me? They'll be like, well, what you going to do there? And before you're like, oh, I don't know. I don't know what to tell them. You're like, hey, now you had an experience last night, and you're like, we have fun. That's what we do. You want to come? It's good food, right? We had a stone fire grill. Some people were really eating it up, and people took it home. And so you're able to say, yeah. When we have an event, we're there to build relationship and to have fun, right? Part of that is that fellowship that we're talking about. So we've had the Thanksgiving celebration, right? We flipped the sanctuary around. We threw the tables out, and we made it different, right? We had our Super Bowl party. They're like, oh, why did you do that? I'm not a football fan. I could care less about football. What I wanted is you around each other, laughing, talking about the game and this or that. That's the goal behind it. And again, maybe you have that friend that won't come to church, but they'll come to a Super Bowl party, right? Because free food, a game, hey. And then they start looking around and go, hey, that pastor guy wasn't so bad. Hey, those other members, I liked them. They're really nice. And he said, hey, you want to come to church? Yeah, sure, why not? Those people are really neat, right? And it gives us the opportunity. Valentine's Day dinner, family nights, right? Opportunities, because here in the sanctuary, we do a lot of adult ministry. But how do we minister to families as a whole? How do families get to interact? Married couples interact, singles interact, right? We can start doing some nights where we target and specific to open it up to where families get to interact together. At our few churches ago, what we did is we had what we call a drive-in movie night. You're like, well, what's that? We literally had the families build cardboard box cars so that they can sit in, and we had them bring their cardboard box car to the church, and we showed a Disney film, or whatever. There's the films with the vegetables. VeggieTales, right? VeggieTales. You know what I'm talking about? Those are all ideas where it engages parents to interact with their kids, and not only interact with their kids to do something together, but then get to come to do something together as a body and enjoy that time together. Because not only want you as adults to have fellowship together, we want children to have fellowship together and enjoy and say, hey, I know that Frank, I know that David, I know these different people, I know Cookie, I know Diana. We want the kids to know who you are on a different level. Can I tell you, being in the classroom as a classroom teacher, I can teach all day. I could be the greatest teacher in the world, but you know what has a greater impact? Is when I go out on the basketball court and I give up my lunch and I start playing basketball and they foul me and I trip and I lose the ball and I look like a fool. And they're like, Mr. D, you're horrible. But you know what? They don't care because they love that I went out there and I was with them. And you know what that does to my classroom? Now all of a sudden, it's not biology class. That's Mr. D. He's the guy that plays basketball with us. And so this is the point of events, that the work that happens here at the church becomes more fruitful because the relationships make it matter. And so hiking, I've done this with youth ministry. I see this as another opportunity for those that want to be active to be. And some of you are like, I've never gone on a hike. Okay, we were trying to do a variety of things for a variety of people, but I like to get out there and do those things. To be able to get out there, and families can do that depending on what kind of hike we're talking about. We have to be careful with that. I took my wife on a hike and my dog quit halfway through, and my wife was upset with me. So we'll be conscientious of that. One of the events that's coming up now here in March, Night of the Champions. If you notice, we advertised for the youth retreat. Did we get any youth? No. Did I anticipate that? Absolutely. I know it's new. Families don't know me. Like, I'm not sending my kid up with you to this retreat. You just started here in October. I figured that, but why did I do it? Because I want the youth to know, and families of youth to know, that there's place for them here. That this isn't just an adult ministry, that this is a ministry that welcomes all age groups. No matter how old you are, how young you are, that you have a place here, and that we're going to offer opportunities for you to be able to build relationship and grow in your faith. So what is Night of the Champions? They put it on at Azusa Pacific University. It's an outreach. They bring the gospel. Derek Carr from the Raiders. I hate the Raiders, but it's another story. He was there sharing the gospel. And it's a whole day of this soccer fields. It's huge, filled with jumpers and you name it, for kids just to go out and spend the whole day having fun. And so Night of the Champions is another opportunity that we have to do that. And so those are what we call about events, and those are reasons why we put on events. Well, what does this year look like? We know why we do events, we know our mission, we know our vision. What is this year going to look like? Right now, the model is, right, Calvary Chapel's typical model is Sunday morning, New Testament, Wednesday night, Old Testament, right? And the bigger Calvaries, what they're able to do is, if they want to have different things going on, they put it on a different night of the week. Like I told you, I work a full-time job. I cannot do more than I'm already doing. So how will we begin to tackle these different areas? Because there's different needs within the churches, different age groups. So how will we look at this? Well, as we look at a year at a glance, we're going to look at the year in quarters. So quarter one, January through March. Quarter two, April through June. Quarter three, July through September. And quarter four, October through December. Because what happens on a typical Wednesday night, right? Either you go or you don't go. That's the kind of way it happens. Well, what we want people to be able to do is, quarters typically, if you've ever done a Bible study, what I've learned over time is people have between 8 and 12 weeks, typically 8 to 10 weeks, that they're able to hang in and do, let's say, a study of some sort, and then life gets in, right? And you get busy and you can't do it, and you're like, I guess I just can't do that midweek service. Well, what we want to do is break it up into quarters so that the families and, different people have an option, so that if they miss quarter one because life hit them and they're working a lot of overtime, cool, here comes quarter two. What's being offered quarter two that I might enter in? It's always an opportunity to enter in again and say, well, I can't do that, or maybe, I'm not interested, or whatever that is. We want to give multiple opportunities. Well, here's the midweek service, right? Quarter one, what is that going to look like? Well, January through March, we're already in January, right? We're actually in February. Where are we at right now? We're in the Old Testament. We just finished the book of Mark. We're in the Old Testament. Right now, we're in the minor prophets. Why are we doing minor prophets? Number one, I chose minor prophets because they're short. I can pick some short minor prophet books because, look, we're coming up towards March real quick. I don't have a long time. And the Old Testament is a priority here at Calvary Chapel, so we want to be able to give you Old Testament. Second reason why we're in the minor prophets is because they're probably the least known of the Old Testament, right? Everybody knows the stories in Genesis. Everybody knows stories in Exodus. But when it comes to the minor prophets, people are like, who is Haggai? What did he talk about? Right? Who's Amos? I don't know. And so we're going to be in the minor prophets because we want to be able to build you up, build your knowledge base of the full counsel of the Word of God that you might know and understand. Well, what about quarter two? Quarter two is coming up now here in April. How are we going to shift in quarter two? Well, like I told you, it's important. I need you to get to know each other. And what we know throughout the history of the church, right? Women love Jesus. And women always flock to Jesus, and they're very spiritually minded. Well, I want to separate that up a little bit and challenge the men to say, hey, we're going to have a men's midweek study, and if it is 2 of us, we're going to meet. If it's 3 of us, we're going to meet. Why? Because we're going to get involved in each other's life, and we're going to talk about things that pertain to men and what men deal with. And so this first series that we're going to be dealing with, I'm praying about doing a video series that I've been through that addresses specific issues related to men, and we will have what we call small groups. I'll get into that more as we look at this. So small groups means if you went to the men's retreat, this is where we sit down and we have questions and we talk about how that passage applies to us. It gives us opportunity to be able to pray and encourage and lift one another up. Because can I say, if we just did the traditional Wednesdays and Sundays, you have a great, easy opportunity to walk in and walk out. Never building any relationship, never going any deeper with anybody else. Well, the goal is having these men's and women's ministries is that you would be able to have those relationships, that you would look forward to those small group times so you can say, hey guys, this was a tough week. Hey guys, I'm struggling in this area. Will you pray for me? And be able to have some men walk alongside you. Well, that's the men's ministry. We also have men's retreat that we did, and we want to be able to have quarterly gatherings, because if we're only going to do this in quarter 2, we want to be able to keep touching base. So we're looking at having quarterly gatherings for men's, maybe a men's breakfast, maybe something else. Those are the details we're praying into. So what I want to do is our next slide, and my wife's looking at me like this. She's going to share with you about women's ministry, or you just want me to share? So quarter 2 is what she's like, they're getting bored of me.
Okay, so women's ministry. Women's ministry is basically set up the same way. We are going to do a quarter system. Still praying about women's retreat. I don't have anything in the works for that just yet, so I didn't put it up on the slide, but I'm praying into that. I really hope that we're able to do a women's retreat. I don't know if that's happened here before, but that's something that I love to do, is get away with the women and be able to pray and just kind of get out of town, basically. Get away from the kids, get away from the husband, get away from friends, phone, the whole deal. Some other things that we're looking for, right now we're planning the first quarter women's breakfast. We're very excited. I'm meeting with a few of the women here, and we're planning to have that on March 16th. So you can tell we're deep into that planning. So that's what we're planning for the very first women's breakfast. And then in the past I've done Beth Moore studies, but I also like Priscilla Shire. So I'm kind of looking into different video series to get into one quarter and kind of dive deep into some type of video series that we can do. I'm not Ian, so I can't do the weekly teaching. That's hard for me, so I'm going to opt for a video study, and I think they're awesome. So.
And I think the other reason why she does that is because sometimes it's hard to read through a book, right? You're working, you're busy, and you're like, read through a book, So these video series still allow us to be fed and have that small group time in discussion, okay? And she talked about, she didn't cover this, but kind of like Beth Moore sometimes have events, or Priscilla Schreier has events. We like to get out as a church and the women, just to go out together, maybe even for a day, and do a little conference. All right, so that's quarter 2. What about quarter 3? Quarter 3, this now hits summertime, right? July through September. Things slow down for people a little bit. People start going on vacations here and there. My heart is personal growth and development, right? Because we talked about, if you're like me, you come from a broken home, there's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of questions that you have, or maybe there's just areas that you haven't touched on. We want to be able to offer, and these are ideas. This is heading towards quarter 3. The books might change, but I just threw out a couple that I've appreciated in my life. And the first one is Keep Your Love On. It's a book about marriage and communication in marriage. And it was a blessing to me. Like I said, I come from a broken home, so how do you talk to somebody without beating them up when they don't agree with you? I didn't know. So this really gave me some tools and helped equip me and better my marriage, right? Master Plan of Evangelism. This is another book. If you're like, well, what about evangelism? How do I share my faith? Maybe that's an area of weakness in it. We want to be able to offer another book like that. Another one, Dr. Kevin Lehman, I'm a big fan of his. It's Have a New Child by Friday. Let's say parenting, right? Parenting's tough. And sometimes you're like, am I doing it right? And of course, like you're like me again, how do you do that if your child doesn't do what you want
how do you do with that without beating them half to death, right? Well, there's tools and there's great men and women of God that have such great wisdom and knowledge. And I've been able to steal from people like Dr. James Dobson, Dr. Kevin Lehman, and just wean from them and say, how do I do marriage? How do I do parenting? Family Life is another organization. And so the heart behind this is that we would give time and opportunity, because not everybody has kids, right? Some of us have been there, done that. My youngest one's graduating, praise God. But there are families that are doing that. Well, can we have another study going on at the same time at somebody else's house to be able to walk through that book together that people have interest in? So that's the heart. Again, home fellowship, right? Loving on each other, walking through life together, digging through some of these areas that we're like, I kind of know about it, but I would like to hear another perspective on it, grow more in that. So that's quarter 3. What about quarter 4? This brings us back to now about Christmas time, right? October through December. We're going to now enter back into Old Testament. So if you notice, 50% of our time is going to be devoted to the Old Testament, but still allowing us to address men, women, specific areas of personal growth in your life. And so we'll enter back into the minor prophets. And I want you not to be shocked. I was shocked when I first entered Calvary Chapel Burbank. When it came to like around the first week of December, they shut everything down. And they didn't have a midweek study, and I was like, oh, what are they doing? How dare they do this? And what I realized is it allowed, because what happens during that time? You're doing Christmas shopping, right? You're running around, you're cooking meals, and what ends up happening is we don't want to burn you out. And so what the heart is, we want to feed you, we want to encourage you, but what we don't want to do is have a Wednesday night study and then have another women's study and a men's study, and then you don't have time to be home with your family or your children, right? Or you're attending church every night. You're so heavenly minded, you're no earthly good, and you're just tapped out. So the goal is not to burn you out with Bible studies and everything else. The goal is to equip you and to feed you and strengthen you and allow you to grow in relationship and within community. And as we become tighter and grow in that relationship in our gifts, guess what? God will begin to respond. And what I don't want to happen is like, well, what happened? I really want the Lord to bless Calvary Chapel Santa Clarita. I want more people to come, and I want Him to, add young people, and I want Him to add different age groups. And okay, but can I say, I don't want that to happen right away. You know why? Because I'm doing as much as I can do. And what it will require is that each of us grow in our gifting and our calling, and that we learn how to do ministry together. And as we are prepared and equipped, and we grow in our skills and our knowledge and ability, that when the Lord begins to add to that load, I'm not the only person trying to run around and minister to everybody and crumbling under the load, right? Because I'm still working. Until the Lord calls me to stop working, I won't quit my full-time job. I love kids. I love ministering to kids in poor, broken communities. And so we need the health of the church and people to feel like I have the ability to lead, right? I have the ability to love on people and encourage them. So that'll be Old Testament. Well, what about outreach? This is the one idea I had. I told you I love young people. We have College of the Canyons just down the road here. And as we've been going through this search for properties and everything else, I called College of the Canyon and said, hey, could we rent out space at your facility? And they're like, wah, wah, wah. No, you cannot. You can rent out space for a one-time event. And so what that triggered me is like, oh, okay, that's a no. But what about a one-time event? Can I tell you, young people are being deceived at alarming rates right now. And I had a young girl, while I was running a Bible school at the high school, and kids knew I was a pastor, they knew I was a science teacher, and I had one girl come up to me and she goes, Mr. DeHerrera, it was before my biology class, she goes, did Jesus really exist? And I was like, well, did you not read your history book? Right? Something that is so factual in history, she was questioning, right, in that. And so at the college level, right, this is happening. There is a great video. The guy that I use all his cartoon images as I teach the Bible Project, his name is Tim Mackey. He's actually a scholar. He has his PhD like in Greek or Hebrew or both, one of the two. But he goes through and he talks about how the Bible was formed. And so it's a really cool thing that I think young adults would be engaged in, because people always wonder, yeah, how was the Bible formed? If it was all these individual letters and scrolls. And so it tickles their mind on the intellectual level, because when you're at that age, you know everything, right? And you got to argue with everybody. And so I want to be able to hit that campus. I want to be able to create professional flyers and say, hey, would you like to come and watch this video? And there's other opportunities in there to be able to say, college students get stressed out. I don't know, this generation, they get stressed out really easy. And you know they bring puppies on campus and they give them free massages. And God, it's great to be a college student these days. It's all on the dime of the college campus. But, you know, I even have ideas of, what if we just had little tiny care packs for college students during their finals when it's getting stressful, and have a shirt that says, need prayer? And just, hey, you know, here's a little package with a little, you know, Nutri-Grain bar, you know, whatever else, and just loving on them. And if they need prayer, can I pray with you? I don't know. You know, these are just thoughts and ideas. My heart, again, is for the next generation, because this is our responsibility as adults, is to pour down into that next generation, to reach out to them, because some of them are hurting and broken. And this is how I was restored to the faith. As a young man, I walked away. I grew up in Pentecostal churches my whole life. I grew up in a broken home, and I just threw my hands in there and I said, I'm done with this. And lo and behold, my brother-in-law said, Ian, you got to try this Calvary Chapel. And I said, you know what, dude, I'm done with church. Been there, done that. It doesn't work for me. And he said, no, try it. And I walked into a church that culturally was completely different. In my hometown, there was two groups of people. There were the Italians, and then there were the Latinos that did all the cleaning and the farming. Well, I was the only Latino with my wife that walked into this church. It was an older group of people. Man, can I say, they loved us. I get a little choked up, but those people that weren't from my culture, those people that weren't in my age group, nobody in this church was in my age group. They just loved us, and as the Word of God was being taught, me and my wife would just sometimes sit in a home Bible study and cry, and they would just love us. And not only did it break the racial barriers and prejudice in my life, but man, these older people just sat and listened, and they loved me. And so that's my heart when I think about those things. This is why I talk about the next generation. This is why I talk about teenagers. I don't care if it's one that wants to go to Night of the Champions. I don't care if it's two that want to go to Youth Retreat. I will go. Because if it turns one life to the Lord, I will go and do that, because they're precious and they're important. And our little guys back in that back room, they're important, and it's a foundation of their faith, and it's our responsibility to take that which we freely received and to freely give to the next generation, that they might have the hope that's offered in the Word of God. Sorry about that. So that leads us to, this is a small church, right? We need people, and some of you are already serving, and some of you are already preaching to the choir. But I have faithful teachers that are back there more than twice a month, and they're trying to come in here and grow and be fed in the faith themselves. I need teachers in those back rooms to love on those little ones, to give their parents a break, because it's hard when their parents are dealing with them all week, and their parents go back there, and they're caring for their own child at church, in children's ministry. They could stay home, right? And so we want to be able to fill that in. And I think about some of these young families don't know how to put a baby. I told you in one of my sermons, right? They don't know how to put a baby to sleep and put her on a schedule. What if I had some of my older saints loving on some of those babies while that mom is getting a rest here on a Sunday morning, being fed. And as that relationship's built because you're caring for the child, to also be able to say, hey, do you have any advice on my baby's not sleeping? And some of you are like, oh, I could do that in my sleep. Let me tell you, this is what you do, right? And then we're able to pour into those young people. Sound ministry, you know who my sound person is? My sound person is my wife. She's taken that on because there's a gap and there's a void. She stepped in there, but the goal is we're trying to establish everything so that when we can work her out of that job and somebody else can begin to fill that void. Greeters and ushers. We have Carol. Carol, if you don't know, Carol's our faithful greeter. Every Sunday she's there welcoming people, loving on them. But if we're going to grow in depth as a church, we need to have more than one person for one job. And we need multiple people to feel encouraged and have an opportunity to be on a schedule. So people like Carol can have a break and say, oh, I'm going to go visit my family, or I'm just going to take a Sunday off and just come and just be a member of the church and be loved on, that we can have other people greeting and have multiple people greeting. As people are walking in, this is a hard place to find, right? Sometimes people are wandering around the courtyard. If we have somebody outside say, hey, you look for Calvary Chapel? Oh yeah, right here, come on in. And then we have another people as they walk in the door, hey, how are you, right? That they would be greeted, they'd be like, oh my goodness, these people are so friendly, I need to get out of here, right? I would rather have that than they say, I walked in the church and nobody said hi to me and I walked right out. God forbid that would ever happen here. Pastor Fred Moe, he sits back there every Sunday. He's here before 8 o'clock. I don't know what time it is because I get here at 8 o'clock. And he's mopping, he's cleaning. And I'm asking him to come up here and do this. And he's like, Pastor Ryan, how do I do both jobs? And I said, you know what, Fred, we're going to pray and ask that the Lord raise up other ushers to come and to fill that spot so we can, have that and we can have a schedule rotating. We can share the load. And the other part about greeters and ushers, it's a great entry point for people to be able to enter, right? Because we don't want somebody walking off the street and saying, oh, I want to be part of worship ministry, or I want to lead men's ministry. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you're about. But our typical way I've been training Calvary Chapel is we do 3 to 6 months that we allow people to come in and just sit and be part of the church so we can get to know them. And then the next step is we allow them, we invite them to be part of things like greeters and ushers to see, give them an opportunity to use their gifts and talents and love on people. And we're able to watch and see what's their DNA, what's their makeup, what's their relationship with God. And then, because we don't want shoving people into children's ministry that we don't know, because those are our precious children back there. And so we want to be careful, and we have layers of how people enter this ministry. And if you're faithful in the little, right, then you can be faithful in much. And so that's kind of the model that I've been raised in as a young man. Well, now, don't get this. I am not asking you for money here. I'm just telling you what I see as a need. These are facility needs. Offering boxes. I know some Calvaries, very few Calvaries, and this is one of them, still pass the basket, right? I've never been in a Calvary that does that. It's just a preference thing, but it does, being a small church, offer us some challenges of being able to collect it, get it back there, count it, put it in a safe place. One way to eliminate some of that is to be able to mount some boxes on the wall that people might be able to enter some prayer requests. It's secure, nobody can run out with it, right? Because I'd be like, yeah, all Sundays offering God. And that way we can unlock it, open it, count it, and then go and deposit that. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. Children's ministry space. This area is sectioned off into little spaces like from here to here. For the kids, it's really tight. And I think we could possibly use that space better. We have an empty office right there. I come out here during the times of services. I can't make the trek another week, so that office is sitting empty. My thought is, well, what if we grabbed all our file cabinets and all our desks and everything, and we use that as an actual office, freeing up some of that space. These are just thoughts. Over here we have in this back room, if you've ever been back here, we have all this stuff that's being stored there, an old ping pong table, shelvings and things like that. But we also have a storage little closet back here that's holding chairs. And I'm like, well, what if we take those chairs out and I throw them in my garage, and we take this stuff back here and put the shelving unit back here? Now that frees up more space for our teenagers, or what it is, Joyce knows. It's kind of like 5th grade through high school, right? That group, and Joyce will tell you, they're sitting around a table of 6, and there's no real space to move, and one of the sections is not being used. Can we reimagine that space right here? We've seen some of our little guys, right? They want to open the door during service and be like, wow, I'm here, right? And there's no barrier between, the kid entering or adults entering in that area. What if we built a little waist-high wall with a barn door on it that so I had a receiving area to receive the kids, to sign them in. So for one, they can't run out. Number 2, it's a place to greet the parents for them to get signed in. These are all just ideas, right? And these are things we need to pray about, but those are thoughts because we want usable space. We want a good space for our teachers and for our children. Reimagining the foyer, right? The foyer is set up. We got some big long tables, right? We got some area for coffee, but looking to update that, and can we get some things that is a better thing that holds coffee and can hold water, right, and refreshments. As some of you have like an eye for decoration, and you're like, oh, this looks good. If you match this color with this color, that would look beautiful. It would be nice to give a fresh look to our foyer back there as people come in or are greeted, right, and to do a new presentation there. Sanctuary. Pam told me, oh, Pastor Ryan, I came in one day off work and I was tearing down all the Christmas decorations. She goes, oh, I really love the decorations. Don't take them down. But, we want those things to be seasonal, so it feels good when you walk in and it's the holidays. But outside of that, you know what I mean? Can we have, something else done to the room to make it feel like we got little flowers from the party last night, but I don't have that, but some people do have that gifting and skill, right? And we want to be able to open up those doors. Pulpit. You guys know what I'm using for a pulpit, right? I'm using the music stand, because we had one of those great big pulpits, and you're looking at my chin, right? I look like a head behind it. It's this big. And I walk around a lot, so I want to move, and this thing's like in my way, so I move that out of the way. So, I'm looking forward to getting a slimline pulpit. Our bulletin, I want to be able to update it and give it a fresh look. So see change in that. But again, that's skill, right? That's somebody that has an eye for how things look and put it in a way that's visually appealing, so when new people come, they see it and they're like, oh, it's easy to find out what's going on in the church. I know to look in this area. That's an art. It's a skill, and I don't have those skills. Decoration and organization like that, I don't. Well, what are some other needs? Technology needs. You guys notice I'm a technology guy. So we're working off an old iPad that we literally cannot update anymore. It won't take any more new updates because it's outdated. And the other day I sent one of my keynote presentations to it, and it said, can't accept. And we're like, what do we do now? I use it every Sunday, but somehow my wife worked with other people and they got it working. Office computer, Pam is working off of a dinosaur. You press on that bad boy, and you go walk and get yourself a coffee and run a few laps, and when you come back, it'll just be starting up. We want to update the office computer to allow her work to be easier. Cordless microphone, this is hard. I have things in my hand. I want to be able to have a cordless microphone walk around. Projectors, people have been telling me sometimes the images are light and can't be clearly seen. I want that to be able to be clearly seen what we're projecting. Video camera. If you guys look back there, what are we using for our video camera to record all our messages? We're using my wife's cell phone. So I want to be able to have that. So, as we begin to have more people enter in and somebody wants to participate in sound ministry, we're not, oh wait, hold on, let me give you my wife's cell phone, right? Do that. And the website update. I want to be able to give our website a fresh update and a new look. There's some people that have those skills and abilities and have those eyes to be able to that's nice, that's attractive, right? And again, I'm not asking for money, and some of this might not happen ever. Some of it might happen, 8 months down the road. I don't know. I just see those as needs, and so we pray over them. We walk through them carefully. We look at the budget and say, okay, Lord, what will you allow for? This is something that my friend created. He said, what is Calvary Chapel, what is Santa Clarita known for? And I said, I have no idea. I drive there twice a week, and I just know you take the 5 down Valencia, and I'm here. That's the only thing I know about the city. And what he researched is he found out that the trees are what Santa Clarita is known for. I think they're called
Tree of Life.
The Tree of Life is what it's called. And the dove is just part of the representation of Calvary, right? Of the Holy Spirit coming down. And so he created that, and I was like, oh, that's cool. I like that. And my daughters, I always look for a younger eye, because I'm getting older, right? And I always don't know what cool is. And so when they see it, they're like, oh, that's awesome. So I was like, oh, okay, younger eyes like it too? Okay. So what I'm thinking about is this is already on our couple of our social media things we updated for. And maybe on the front of the bulletin, if we can get that going and looking at that. Well, what's our final thing? You're probably like, wow, this guy can talk. Yes, I can. Last slide is we want to keep in touch with you. The world is changing, right? Bulletin is one way, and we don't want to get rid of that because not everybody is on social media. And so we still want them to be informed. So that doesn't go away, but we want to also take advantage of the latest technology. And so we are on Instagram. We have Calvary Chapel Santa Clarita Instagram. We are on Facebook. We have Calvary Chapel Santa Clarita Facebook. The messages are posted there, so if you miss a Sunday sermon, you're teaching in the back and you can't get to it, you can go on and find that message. Well, how do we do that? We do that through Vimeo. We pay for an account for Vimeo to upload and store. So some of you are like, why haven't you uploaded the last message? Well, I'm trying to be cheap and, savvy with the money. So I got to where I can only upload once a week with 5 gigs. So sometimes if we're too busy and we don't upload it right away and have 2 sermons next Sunday, I can't. So we're working with that, but that allows us to post the videos on the Santa Clarita Church website and also on the social media websites. You're probably like, what is this over here? Again, communication, right? It's important for us as a body. How do we do this? How do the different ministries communicate with each other? Well, I just signed this up for, it's free. And what's cool is under 40 members, it's free, is this communication app called Flocknote. One of my friends at another Calvary is using it, and the congregation actually likes it because you can get text messages. You don't have to download apps, or get phone calls. You can sign up texting this information, and if we have an update, we could send that out, like today's meeting, reminder, vision meeting at 3 o'clock. Boom, you can pop up on your cell phone as a text message. You're like, oh yeah, I forgot. Cool, right? You can respond back. If we have worship team needing to communicate with each other, there's ability to have groups and send out messages through text or through email, send links or whatever else. Children's ministry, if the children's ministry wanted to communicate, they can communicate through this. We can send message out to all or just to some. and it'll ask for information. Like Pam's been asking me, Pastor Ryan, can we update the, what do we call that, Pam? The directory? Yes, the church directory. And I'm like, we have some here and there. This allows for people when they go in to sign up to give their address, their phone number, their birthday if they want. They could put the month and day and then just put 2019, just so we can say happy birthday, you know, things like that, have that opportunity. So that's available, and we want to be able to start using that. It does text you, so if you're on the limited texting plan, you might want to consider that. But these are all the things we're trying to take advantage of. So whatever age group of people we have coming in here, we want to capitalize on a way to communicate with the whole body, right? Because getting on the phone and calling 30 people might be hard. So it's just another way to enhance that communication, what's going on in the church, allowing the groups to communicate with each other without having to create email lists. And so that's there. If you wanted to sign up for that, you can do that. And so that's the 2019 vision for right now. So I wanted to give time for questions you might have. I don't know that I have all the answers, but I wanted to give time if you have questions, if you have wonderings, or if you're like, I don't want to ask it in front of you, I'll catch you after. This is what we're looking at, and what I'm doing is, why am I doing this? I told you, I'm young. I don't have all the gifts and talents. And what I'm doing is I'm saying, here is my brick. I'm laying it here at Calvary Chapel, Santa Clarita, and I'm cementing it down and saying, I will be here. Will you join me? Will you join me in loving on young people? Will you join me in loving on families? Will you join me in meeting the needs here? There's things that happen here that I don't even know about, that some of you that have been here for all these years do, and thank you, because I don't have to worry about that. I don't know all the details of communion because Fuzzy just handles that. Him and Cookie just handle that. There's things in the office. Pam's managing the messages coming through our website. So can I tell you, you don't need to have an official title to fill a need here at this church. If you see a need, step forward and go ahead and do it. If you see somebody crying, you don't need to go and grab me. Go over and give them a hug and pray for them. Because you are a child of God. The same Spirit that dwells in me also dwells in you. And so I want to encourage you this evening to pray. Some of you are like, I didn't come to this meeting to help out around here. I don't want that. This meeting is not here to say, I need you, you need to help. Our philosophy at Calvary Chapel is that we don't want you to give money, being out of compulsion, meaning like making you feel guilty. We don't want you to give your time because you're being made feel guilty. David, when he was told to go and build an altar and sacrifice to the Lord, he went to this man and he says, I want to purchase this area of land so I could sacrifice to the Lord. And the guy said, you can have it all, even if you need cattle to sacrifice, king, whatever you need. And he says, I will not give that which costs me nothing to the Lord. And so can I encourage you, if you choose, and if you already are participating and serving here, I understand it's a sacrifice. And I'm here with you. And I rose my hand when I heard that there was going to be a church without a pastor. And I sat there and I said, well, I don't know how to do everything. And God said, will you do it? But God, I still have a family. Will you do it? I said, okay. I'm young. I don't know it all. But I trust your word. I want people to know it. I want to encourage them in the faith, so I'll raise my hand and I'll walk. And so all I'm putting before you is, this is ideas. I'm inviting you to walk with me. Let's walk. Let's love. Let's encourage and make sure that the word of God goes forth and does what it does best. And we can be his hands and his feet. Good? All right.